I had hoped to, but obviously this show is trying to mimic reality, and this is not a happy ending type of show. So just to put some things into context, we begin with the episode with Arabella talking within the women's support group for sexual assault. Okay, so the opening, I don't know what you call it, a monologue, I don't know, her little speech, kind of went over my head, but then I had to sit through it and like sort of take in what she was trying to say. I don't really know, but this is what I'm sort of getting from it. And I guess it sort of goes along with the title of line spectrum disorder. We have one side where Kwame is talking about sexuality as being a spectrum, and there are some lines that he's willing to cross. And then on the other hand, I think we have Arabella, where there is a literal line, there's a boundary, and usually people, that is the abuser, know the line, and they want to see how close they can get to that line or how far they could pass the line. And yeah, so let me just figure this out. Okay, so what I'm thinking, she's saying an abuser looks for the line. This side, over on this side, is what you're comfortable with, and this side is what you're not comfortable with. And the abuser technically is looking, has found the line. They're observing, they are looking, and they are seeing how close they can get to the line or how far they could go past the line before shit happens, right? That's what I'm thinking. So then there comes a point where the abuser finds that line and they see that you're affected by it, but they will gaslight you. Even if they cross it a bit, they didn't get too far, and they will tell you that you are the one. They will flip the script and tell you that you are the one that violated them and make you think you're crazy. So I think that's what she's saying. So she's telling the girls that we need to start observing and flip it back on them. But that's sort of what I'm thinking. I don't really know, but maybe. Okay, so next we're going to talk about Kwame and his whole idea with sexuality being a spectrum. So after Kwame being sexual assaulted, he still has interest in engaging in sex. It took him some time, but he wants to get back into the game. But he is sort of turned off from men and is looking to women instead, temporarily. I find it interesting how this show is demonstrating that even if you're assaulted, you would still want to engage in sex. Personally, for me, like when something turns me off, like I'm done, I'm off. But I think sex is a powerful thing, and obviously people cling to it, to that sense of closeness. And I'm not saying Arabella and Kwame are comfortable with engaging in sex fully, they just want to do it because it's pleasurable. But what I'm saying is, I honestly, I'm just gonna say I don't understand it, and I feel like I would need to have a conversation with someone who's been through it, and for them to explain to me the things that they've went to and how they've overcome it, for me to fully grasp, like, how does one go from being assaulted to then wanting to engage in sex again? That's where I am. I want to learn more. If anybody could fill me in, let me know. So my question for this discussion is, why did Kwame choose a woman to engage in sex with when he is a homosexual male? Some may disagree with me, and that is okay. This is a place for open discussion, for your thoughts and for your opinions, but I don't know, I personally believe that Kwame bringing up the idea of sexuality being a spectrum was just an excuse for him to validate his next actions moving forward. Like, I don't know, I think it's deeper than that. I think that excuse was sort of BS. I think he's not obviously completely turned off by men, but I think he's afraid, if that makes sense. I think he's afraid to be dominated by another male, knowing the fact that he is a male. And that's the scary thing. Even Arabella and Terry, like, Kwame, like, no, don't touch the women, like, just leave them alone, this is not you. Like, if you're so obsessed, just wank, just do a little wank and move on. But no, he went to great lengths just to obtain intimacy and closeness. And I don't believe that Kwame is into the hookup culture that we normally see him in, scrolling through Grindr. Because if you guys really, obviously you guys paid attention, but he went on a whole date. He FaceTimed this girl. They made plans. He had dinner. They went back to her place. They had sex, and then they stayed in bed and had a conversation. If that is not intimacy, if that is not closeness, I think those are the things that he wants in life, and he hasn't been able to get them from the men that he ends up finding, the men that he ends up pursuing. And I think that's what Kwame ultimately wants. So let's continue to talk about consent, because I think this is what this show's about. This show just dives into different aspects of consent. So what can we learn from this episode? So the woman Kwame went on a date with, did she have a right to know he was gay before they engaged in sex? That is my question. I want to know your thoughts. I want to hear them. I want to know them. She was already cringe in my opinion with her whole like low-key, I don't know, it could have been a preference, but I felt like it was more fetish it was more fetish, I can't say it. Fetishize, I can't say it. Yeah. I felt some fetish vibes coming from her, but I'm gonna cast it away. But let's just get into it. I believe she had a right to know, and let me defend from her point of view. I think if anything, she was more hurt that he lied, and it sort of felt like, was Kwame using her? Was this something he does to get off? Was this something that he was experimenting with? And it sucks because they were both being very vulnerable with each other. This was real to her. This was a real date. But in her eyes, when he comes out with that knowledge, it's like, was this all an illusion? Was this all fake? Like, you're kind of twisted. Why would you do something like that? I personally believe if he said from the jump, like, hey, I'm a gay man, but I really like you too, she would have been more open to the idea. But the fact that he came out with this information afterwards puts a bad taste in her mouth, because now all these theories and ideas are running through her head and she doesn't know what is true. She was trying to build a genuine connection, but right now it seems like he was just trying to experiment with her. This is all gray area, and I don't think anybody has the answer. I know I don't have the answer. This is why I'm asking questions. But like, what information does a person have the right to know or needs to know in order to be willing to participate in sexual activity with another person? Because I feel like everybody has a past, or everybody has things that they're holding on to that they're not going to disclose right off the bat. And then after the act is committed and information comes out, people get upset. So I don't know. This is a lot to think about. Also, I will say, just to bring this up, now that I'm thinking about it, Kwame chose to sleep with a woman because, yes, again, he doesn't want to be dominated. He wanted to be the one to have the upper hand. And when he was having sex with her, he was having sort of flashbacks into the way his abuser was treating him. And when she was saying things like, oh my god, like when she was saying things like go harder, he was sort of hesitant because he didn't want to be the aggressor, but then he was sort of taking on the persona of the abuser. That's what I was seeing, but yeah. So now we're going to talk about one of the saddest things that happened this episode, and that was Arabella not getting the justice she was hoping for. Like, the justice system is so whack, man. Like, it's so whack. She waited 9 whole months for these results. 9 whole months that the detectives who were doing her case came back and they're pregnant. They're pregnant, ready to give birth. Like, no, like, I don't know if you guys, like, can you imagine waiting, hoping for an answer, hoping for justice, hoping that the system actually works in your favor? only to hear that they failed and they won't be continuing on with the investigation. They failed and they said, we won't be trying anymore. Sorry. That's what they said. That's a slap in the face. That's a whole slap in the face. 9 months having hope. 9 months holding on to something. 9 months getting nothing. That's sad. That's sadness. Lastly, I'm just going to touch on Arabella and Italian boo. Italian not so boo Biagio and their odd not so relationship. Oh my god. I'm like, I have secondhand embarrassment from watching that. I felt so uncomfortable watching that. I was like, girl, don't do this to yourself. Arabella was wrong. Everything she did in this episode was wrong. And she could say, yeah, she called ahead telling him she was coming, but if a guy ignores your calls, that's a huge hint. Don't assume and show up. If you say you're coming and he doesn't reply, you're not going anywhere. You're gonna sit your ass home. You're gonna stay. Do not call up his phone. Do not text him. Do not send so many messages. Send your message, and if he doesn't reply, it's done. But this girl traveled to Italy to see him. She broke into his house. She made herself comfortable at the table. She ordered food and waited for him to show up. That is insane. Biagio made it so clear, like, sis, he was saying, like, his actions, his body language was saying, I am not your boyfriend, and I don't even want to be your friend. Like it was done. Like, he did not care about Arabella at all. Do I blame Biagio for the way he acted? Not at all. No. She violated his space and privacy. Like, that was too much. She was bugging. Imagine someone you haven't been talking to. They turn your life upside down. You sort of want to cut them off and have nothing to do with them. And then you come home and you find them in your house. That's trippy. You would be tripping out. You would be going mad in your head, freaking out like, why is this person here? But he did panic. But then he sort of tried his best to de-escalate the situation, hugged her, sat down next to her, heard what she had to say, and was just chatting, keeping the conversation light. I think it was smart for him to give her money and tell her to go get the pizza, and then locking the door. Bella blew up when she came back and found that his door was locked and he locked her out. She went out of control. She was screaming at the top of her head, speaking in Italian, speaking in English, causing a scene, causing a disruption. And that was hard to watch. I was sad, and I just wanted her to go. I felt so uncomfortable. I believe her banging, kicking, punching the door was just a manifestation of everything that she was going through, and it finally just vomited up in that moment. Like, she just couldn't take it anymore. The fact that she got raped, the fact that she's rejected, the fact that the perpetrator did not get arrested for sexually assaulting her. All of that just manifested in itself, and she just couldn't take it anymore, and she took all that rage and anger out on Biagio, when I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong. Maybe he wasn't the boyfriend that she thought he was in her mind, but definitely that's where all that anger came up. It was not towards him, but it was everything in a whole. And it got so crazy to me when he opened the door, but he had a gun in his hand and he told her to leave. And sis bounced immediately. And I don't blame him. Like, if she keeps this up, someone in his apartment is going to call the cops. And then that's going to be another problem on his back that he doesn't want. So he just needs her to get going and be gone. So then we find Arabella The only place she knows, she has no money, she has no cell service. Like, this girl is deserted. She tries to call Terry, but no data, no connection. So she breaks into the beach where Biagio first took her, and she falls asleep there. And then she wakes up, and what does she do? She goes into the body of water. And the way I viewed that, my interpretation of it was sort of like a baptism. And she went into a body of water and dunked herself under it. And then at the very end, you see her head come up. I saw this sort of as her being new, her being born again in her sense, not in the Christianity sense. But I don't know if this is what I think it is. She's either going to come back up as a new, powerful person that doesn't want to be messed with, or she's going to come up as a monster ready for vengeance and ready to destroy. So that's where I think this is going. I don't really know, but yeah. This was an interesting episode. I really liked it. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts. And I know a lot of you guys have already finished the series and I'm just watching it one step at a time, which is okay. I like that. I like organization. I like space. But yeah, if you're still following along and you're still watching the show with me, please comment down below. Tell me what your thoughts are. I want to hear your opinions. Tell me how you interpreted stuff. Let's learn off of each other. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.